and welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. I'm right back in this corner again. We've had a little rearrange for Christmas, yeah, so it means that the sofa's now back over here, there, and I'm over here with the books, which is lovely. Unusual. It's been a long time since I filmed this close to the books, but it's lovely. Today I'm going to be filming my November TBR, but before I talk about my November TBR, it's cozy reading night tomorrow. So here in the UK, we've gone back into lockdown 2.0. During the first lockdown, I did a cozy reading night every other week called the Stay at Home Cozy Reading Nights. And I sort of vowed to myself, if lockdown ever come back, I would reinstate cozy reading night. So I have done that. Cozy reading night, Stay at Home Club 2.0 will start tomorrow night. What is tomorrow night? The 6th of November, 7 PM till 10 PM GMT. I'll be doing a TBR for that. We've got one TBR today, another TBR tomorrow. Here comes my fiance with my mug of tea. Thank you so much. Yeah, so there'll be a cozy reading night tomorrow night. I'll be doing a TBR for it, I'll be vlogging it, and I'll be active on Instagram and Twitter as always. But today's my November TBR. So I didn't do a TBR for October. There's been a few sort of months this year where I haven't done TBRs, and I'll tell you, I hate it. I need a TBR to get me, like, for me just to sort of whittle down all of this. Like I've set myself a few sort of like months where I was like, oh, I'll just pick what I want off my shelves. Well, it just stresses me out too much. So I've picked some books here, and for good reason. I'll go through them and tell you why I'm deciding to read them. But I wanted to show you first of all the books that I'm currently reading that I will continue to read throughout November. The first one is A Poem for Every Day. This is going to be finished this month because this is a poem for every autumn day, and according to this book, the last day of autumn is the 30th of November. So David and I have been taking it in turns to read a poem aloud to one another out of this book, which we've just been having a lovely time. More recently we've had a few by Roald Dahl, which have been lovely, but today, which is the 5th of November, so that's bonfire night in the UK, we had the old classic Remember the 5th of November, which if you're in the UK you probably do know that story. So that poem, so that's what we've been, so I will continue to read that. Now also, my one true love, I've started reading this. This is the Christmas Chronicles by Nigel Slater, and it has basically, not every day, but like, they have diary entries on the run up to Christmas, starting from the 1st of November, talking about different sort of seasonal things, getting prepared for Christmas. Nigel Slater's writing is just, I feel a bit emotional just even thinking about it. Also beautiful food photography, not even just food photography, like Christmas photography. And yeah, I've just been, so I'm on this, I read the 5th, as I said, it's the 5th of November today, so I read the 5th of November today, but I'll be reading a bit of that every day. And then this book sort of leads into my next couple of books. So I've also started reading Olive by Emma Gannon, which is a women's contemporary fiction book centred around a character, Olive, whose friends are, so she's in her 30s and her friends are married and having kids and things like that, and this is something that she's never really thought she wanted. She runs a magazine, and her, like, as I said, her friends are all sort of like different stages of their lives compared to her, and she thinks, am I being left behind, or is this what I really want? As someone who doesn't want children, these are sometimes thoughts that I have, yeah, so it's interesting, and it just, I mean, one of these comments on the front from Elizabeth Gilbert says, importantly honest, and I do find this quite an honest depiction of like what it's like to not want kids, and for people to ask you about not wanting kids, and like, oh, have you got any kids? Like, that's one of the first questions I always get asked. So yeah, but this book I had earmarked to read when David and I went on holiday this month. So David and I were supposed to be going to France. My parents have got a place in France, and I'll continue to hold it up. My parents got a place in France, and we were supposed to be going there for a week. There's not much to do, it's just a sort of in the middle of nowhere. There'll be a lot of sort of like eating delicious food, sitting by the fire, reading, watching some films, going for some cold walks, etc, etc. But obviously lockdown 2.0 happened, and then before that France is on the quarantine list, so we would have had to quarantine for 14 days when we got back, which is just not helpful with my job and just life really. So we sort of said we wouldn't end up going to France this year, which is really sad. We haven't been for like 6 years, so we'll probably go next winter now, because we're not, it's really hot there in the summer, and I do not like that. But yeah, so I'd already sort of like been picking books that I wanted to read while we were there. I've already read one of them, Passing by Nella Larson. I've read that earlier like, it's only the 5th of November, but I've read that already. So this was one of the books. And then the other 2 books that I was planning on taking away with me was Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery, which I just adore this front cover so much. And I've hauled this, and you'll know my sort of like backstory of this, is that I saw Emma from Drinking by My Shelf read this whole series in a weekend, and I was like, I'd never really thought that I'd like it. There's David with his scrambled eggs on toast. I never thought I would be into this really, but then when I saw her read it, I was like, oh, maybe I would really like that. And then I saw these beautiful front covers. I've also got the Little Princess one. They're called the Woman, the Sisterhood ones. Look at them. Look at them. They're done by, this artwork is absolutely amazing, by Julia Ozdemir. I follow her on Instagram. Absolutely fantastic. Pop that back though. So yeah, so I'm going to be reading that at some point. And then also, I've got the first 3 in the series of this series, which is called The Mirror Visitor. This is number 1, which is Winter's Promise. This is by Christelle Dubois. And these are YA fantasy translated from French. And I was like, oh, that'll be perfect. Lovely sort of like cozy fantasy. And as I said, I've got 3 of them. There's the 3rd one. This is the 2nd one. I've got the proof of, no, where's the 2nd? There's the proof of the 2nd one. And then the last one's green, maybe. Oh yeah, here it is. That's off camera. But yeah, so I was thinking I'll read those as well, which I thought was going to be perfect to read in France, but obviously we ain't going to France no more, but I'd still like to read it. Then I've got a couple of library books that I've picked up. Now, as I said, I keep saying it, lockdown has happened, and the library is no longer open, so I've got these books for the whole month, so I will read these at some point. The first one is Anne Perry, and what drew me to this is that it's got an introduction by Tiari Jones, who wrote An American Marriage, which I loved, and this is set in New York City in the 1940s. It says, in a crumbling tenement in Harlem, Lute Johnson is determined to build a new life for herself and her 8-year-old son Bub, a life that they can be proud of. Having left her unreliable husband, Lute believes that with hard work and resolve she can begin again. She has faith in the American dream, but in her struggle to earn money and raise her son amid the violence, poverty and racial dissonance of her surroundings, Lute is soon trapped. She is a woman alone, too good looking to be decent, with predators at every turn. So yeah, so I'm going to be reading that. And then I've also got The Ninth Child by Sally Magnuson. And this looks super, like, I'm really into this, and like a lot of it's like very short chapters and stuff. For instance, chapter 12, not to give myself any spoilers, the lady has come back, they told me she would. That's interesting. But this is set in a lock waterworks in 1856, a highland wilderness fast becoming an industrial wasteland, no place for a lady. Young doctor's wife Isabel Aird, grieving the loss of her many unborn children, finds unexpected freedoms among these hills, echoing with gunpowder blasts day and night. And she's pregnant, etc. So yeah, sounds great. I'm really looking forward to that. And then I've got some books here. I'm going to pull these up here now. The first one is a book that I'd recently bought, and I was like, I don't just want this to sit on my shelf. I've got another one of these as well. This is After You'd Gone by Maggie O'Farrell. I bought 2 new Maggie O'Farrells, and then Simon was kind enough to send me another. So I've got 3 of these. They're not new, sorry. They're republished with these beautiful front covers, bright colours and everything. And the Maggie O'Farrells that I've read, I really, really loved, but sort of stopped there and not read any more. And I wanted to read a few more of her books. So this is After You've Gone, and this is about a young girl who boards a train at King's Cross to go to Edinburgh to visit her sisters, and then later then she steps into traffic in London and is taken to a hospital and is in a coma, and it's sort of like, why did she do that, etc, etc. So yes, very much looking forward to that. Then it is Nonfiction November this month, which I very much adore. And I picked out 3 non-fiction books. No, 4 non-fiction books. I always enjoy non-fiction November because I love reading non-fiction, and I do read non-fiction throughout the month. Throughout the year, sorry. But one book that I always seem to turn to in November, and I always seem to read it in November, and that is Names for the Sea, Strangers in Iceland by Sarah Moss. This is a non-fiction book about Sarah Moss and her family relocating to Reykjavik in Iceland in 2009, as she gets a job at the university there, and her 2 young boys start school there, etc, etc. And I just love this. It's beautifully written. If you've read any of Sarah Moss's fiction books, you'll know that she is an amazing writer, and yeah, this non-fiction account of her moving to Iceland I really, really, really love. And yeah, like I said, I sort of turn to it every November really as a bit of a treat, and yeah, I just really love it, so looking forward to reading that. Then I've got a collection of essays that I bought earlier this year and haven't read yet, and that's My Time Among the Whites, Notes from an Unfinished Education by Janine Capo Crusay, and these are essays about Janine's time in America, when she is from a Cuban, her parents are Cuban. She's raised in Miami, the daughter of Cuban refugees, whose aspirations for their child begin with a plan to name her after the Miss American pageant winner, Janine Kepper Cruz. They grew up in the nation designed to exclude, in dispatches that range from rodeo town in Nebraska to Ivy League and Disney World. And what drew me to this book was that I heard Mercedes reviewing it, talking about the essay about being in Disneyland when it's a primarily sort of like white environment. So yeah, looking forward to reading that. And then the next non-fiction I've got is this book, which has appeared on, I think, 1 TBR this year. God, it's so heavy. David bought me for this for Christmas last year. This is Big Sister, Little Sister, Red Sister, Three Women at the Heart of 20th Century China, by Yung Chang, and about these three sisters living in, they were the most famous sisters in China as the country battled through the 100 years of war, revolutions and seismic transformations. The three Sung sisters from Shanghai were at the centre of the power, and each of them left an indelible mark on history. And they each had sort of like nicknames: Red Sister, Little Sister and Big Sister. Yeah, so I want to read this. David bought me this for Christmas last year, and I've put it on my my TBR a few times and haven't read it, so I would love to read this month. And then I've got this book which I was sent earlier this year. This is Not the Type by Camilla Thurlow. Now Camilla Thurlow was on Love Island a few years ago. If you've been here a while, you'll know that I loved her so much, and I still love her now. She's actually just had a boyfriend with she's actually just had a baby with the boy, like her partner from Love Island, which is just lovely news. And this is about her working as a bomb disposal, well, it's about her whole life, I guess, and her being not the usual type of person to go on Love Island or go and work in bomb disposal and things like that. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And I've been sort of like, I had it and I've been putting it off, and I was like, I'm gonna read it in November when it's non-fiction November, and also it's my birthday and I like to treat myself to a nice read. So yeah, I'm going to be reading that this month as well. It's quite big, this TBR, isn't it? And then last book before I go on to my book club books. So lastly, I did a video earlier this year where I talked about books that I thought were going to be 5-star reads, but that I was putting off. And one of those books was The Fair Fight by Anna Freeman. Now last year, over my birthday, I read 5 Days of Fog by Anna Freeman, which was her, this was her debut, and then 5 Days of Fog came out a couple of years ago, and I read that over my birthday last year, and it was one of my favourite books of the year. I really loved it, and because as soon as I finished reading it, I bought this second hand. I think I got it online, and I'd been sort of like putting it off because I really think I'm going to love this so much. It's about women wrestlers. It's historical fiction about women wrestlers. I don't actually know what time it's set, but yeah, it's about street fighters, and yeah, it sounds like it's going to be bloody amazing. And I've been putting it off because I wanted to read it over my birthday, basically, because I read 5 Days of Fog last year over my birthday and really loved it. And yeah, so I'm going to read this over my birthday. So it's my birthday towards the end of the month, so I'm going to pick this up at the end of the month. And then the 2 books for book club, so one of which I don't own yet, and this is for my book club online with some friends. I think I might listen to the audiobook of The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Now, I haven't always got on with Matt Haig's writing. I haven't, well, actually, I say I haven't always got on with Matt Haig's writing. I've read The Humans and I didn't love it, and that's the only book of Matt Haig's that I've read. But I know he is very beloved, and everybody in book club is very excited to read The Midnight Library. I think I'm going to get it on audio. And yeah, I guess I'm going to see how I get on with it, and see what happens. And then my Patreon book club, which is super exciting. It's my birthday month, as I've mentioned, and the genre for this month was, because it's my birthday month, Lauren's favourite. So the picks were between Americana and Rebecca won. So very excited to read and discuss one of my favourite books of all time at the end of this month. Now, this is my beautiful Virago copy, but I'm actually think I'm going to listen to the audiobook of that as well, because I tend to read it at some point every year anyway, so it's a nice treat to read it. Oh, maybe I will. Maybe I'll do a bit of reading and a bit of listening. But yeah, so both books this month I'm quite interested to get to, and potentially looks like I'll be listening to them on audio. So those are my... David, what are you giggling about over there? So those are the books that I'm planning on reading in the month of November. Let me know if you've set a TBR for the month of November. Are you going to be reading some non-fiction? And I'll see you all again soon for another booktube video. Cheers! Christmas bugs.